Alright there, it's Friday, October the 12th, 2011, about midday. Beautiful day today. No, I'm not Slaxer. You thought I was, wasn't it? No, I am Ben. I'm not Slaxer. No, I shouldn't try to be Slaxer, actually. I was going to go and buy a wig and sunglasses and everything, but no, there is only one Slaxer, and he is irreplaceable and accept no cheap imitations. No, I'm here in this beautiful Emerald of the South, as it's called, Oxfordshire, and you can see when you look at these sun shining on these green fields where it gets that name from. I'm actually at a place called Nunam, which is in Oxfordshire, and I'm just going to do a bit of sort of semi-secret filming now. I want you to just show you where I am, because I'm actually at the headquarters of at least one of the headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University, and I'm just going to show you a bit of that. I'm just going to have to be a bit covert, because I don't know exactly what they'll do if they see me filming. I'm not sure what their policy is on that. I'm still recording, yeah. So I'm just going to do a bit of semi-secret filming out there. See, now this is the gate. This is just the gatehouse. This isn't where I bet you thought that was where it was, didn't you? But you thought it was in that nice country house there. No, that is not where the Global Retreat Centre is. The Global Retreat Centre is in there. That's it there. That's Nunam House. Pretty magnificent, isn't it? See the flag flying at the top there? That's a sort of Brahma Kumaris sort of flag. It's an oval-shaped object with 16s. I thought there might be an esoteric number, but it's 16 little bars on it. If you come over here, there's their signboard, you see. Global Retreat Centre, Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. The wind's getting up again, so I'll go over here. See, please use main car park. Now, I've been here a couple of times on workshops and things like that. I've been on various, they do meditation retreats. They do meditation and they do spiritual discussion. And I have a lot to say. I've got a lot to say about that, actually. It was now this video is kind of a request. Now I've never done a request before as such, but Slaxer actually, talking about Slaxer just now, Slaxer made a video about a week ago called Malignant Spirituality. Now I put a comment on there he liked, and he suggested that I make a video, and this video is kind of a companion to an article I did a little while ago called Findhorn. Right, I'm just going to see how much I can film in here. See, it's very nice. I mean, that house is an interesting past, actually. The house used to belong to the Harcourt family, which was a big aristocratic bloodline in this area, it's basically like one of these big country piles that these people have, you know, like imagine a sort of Jane Austen novel kind of thing, you know. They actually shifted the village of Nunam, you know, a whole mile. I mean, where it is now, I've actually walked about a mile from the bus stop, which is in the village of Nunam. They actually shifted it about a mile to where it is now, because they shifted the village just so the house could be built with a better view. And if you manage to get round the corners, you will see actually the lovely view. So yeah, it's right by the River Thames, actually. Very, very nice. To the house. That little egg-shaped thing there is their symbol. And there we are, see? What do you think of the garden? Pretty grand, isn't it? I mean, this house wouldn't have gone cheap. it would not have been cheap at all to buy or to rent. I don't know if they buy it or rent it, either way. If they rent it, I think it belongs to Oxford University. But I don't think they get a housing benefit. And this lawn is lawn 90 kept. The gardens round the back are absolutely magnificent. I went up to the door, but there's not much going on in there. I went up there earlier, knocked on the door, but no one answered. Then one of these people with white dresses came down and sort of just walked across. Didn't even look at me. There's an Asian lady in a white dress. They all wear white around here. Interestingly, I mean, there's a greenhouse there. You see, they're growing their own food. It's sort of interesting, you know, the way this place operates, because that house, like I said, it was used to belong to an aristocratic bloodline. Then it was bought up by Rothmans, the tobacco magnates. This is an interesting history, isn't it? First it's run by the aristocracy. I know all this because when I last... Sorry, there's a bit of wind. When I last came here years ago with a friend of mine to one of their sort of workshops or retreats, I went on a guided tour of the house, given by one of the white suits, as I called them. The staff there, they all wear white. It was brought up by Rothmans, the tobacco giants, and then Brahma Kumaris brought it up and founded their global retreat. Now, I can't get around the back today, but the gardens around the back are magnificent. If you go online, go to their website, and there's pictures of the gardens. They are absolutely beautiful. Now, the strange thing is, right, they don't charge for their workshops. Even the all-day ones only cost about... The workshops are nothing. I mean, even the all-day retreats cost next to nothing. I'm going to carry on walking down here a bit. Which is weird, I think, which is very, very strange. Yeah, you see, you can't see much from here, but there's what looks like tennis courts there. And there's the greenhouse I showed you. Carry on down here and see where we get to. Now, see, look at that, eh? Look at that. Emerald of the South. Emerald of the South indeed. Just wait for the wind to pass a minute. Whoa, I hate that wind. It buggers up the microphone. I need one of those furry things that the BBC use, don't I? Oh. Right, oh, get out of the way, bloody wind. Get out of the way. Damn wind. I just have to wait till the wind passes. I don't know how much you can hear of me. It'll pass in a minute. Okay. Like I said, they don't charge. There's no charge at all for their workshops. Whoa! So I'm just trying the car coming past. No charge at all for the workshops. Only about £10 for their day retreat, and includes the meal. You know, I mean, there's this, and they work a lot. You see, so it started off as aristocracy, moved on to the corporate world, and then this spiritual university brought it up. Do you see a connection here? I see a connection, and it's certainly not anti-establishment, as many people claim the New Age is. So I'm going to have to shout because of the wind. Many people see the New Age as something anti-establishment, as something that was is something natural and healthy and designed to replace the conventional Illuminati-controlled, or even if you don't use the word Illuminati, you see them as establishment-controlled religions. But that's not. I don't think that is what the New Age is. The Brahma Kumaris organisation was started in 1930, actually, in India, and it's still centred in India today. Now, the thing about it is, it's it's a bit hard to say exactly where they come from, because, you know, I mean, they act, there's a lot on the surface, they look like some kind of Hindu sect, you know, like they have very sort of Hindu style artwork and things like that in their gallery. Wind again, wind. Just get out of the wind. Have Hindu style artwork in their gallery. But any sort of Indologist or scholar of a sort of Hindu works, actually they wind. I'm going to try and shield the microphone. Any scholar of Hindu law has a very dim view of the Brahma Kumaris. It's basically, on the surface, it's just a superficial similarity to traditional Hinduism. It is basically, in its essence, it's a construct. It's been compared to the Protestant Reformation in Christianity, but it's much, much newer than that. It's less than a century old. And it was founded, the first leader was a guy they call Brahma Baba. And they got pictures of him everywhere. This little guy with a white tash, Asian guy with a white tash and white hair, big brown domed forehead. Now, Brahma Baba was what started it off. And it sort of blossomed. It now operates in 150 countries. It must have its enormous infrastructure, like many of these religious organisations, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, which I've also been to see, and I've also talked about. It has an enormous, very sophisticated institution. Sorry if I'm speaking too loud, I'm trying to shout above the wind. And obviously it costs a pretty penny. I mean, that house is not cheap. It is a Grade 2 listed building, 16th century, or sorry, 17th century mansion for the Harcourt family. Now, obviously, it's the kind of place a tobacco giant like Rothmans could easily afford, but, you know, these are supposed to be people, I mean, the people who live there, because, I mean, it's sort of residential, it's like a kind of monastery. They're obviously not short of a penny or two, especially if they're giving out free... Oh dear, wind again. If they're giving out free workshops, you can go along there and go to a 3-hour workshop for nothing. An all-day workshop, including the meal, costs about £5 or something like that. I went to an all-day workshop there one day. I'm going to go and see if I can get a better view of the other side of the building. Now, Slaxer, I mean, he made a good point. I'm going to wait till the wind is gone before I say any more. Sorry about this. Where can I go? Oh, I'm going to go into the trees where there's no wind. Oh. Alright, let's go with these nice green fields. Now, as I was saying, sorry, this is a bit disjointed. There's the Brahma Kumaris organisation, like I say, appears to have no income. Oh, for fuck's sake! I'll have to go somewhere where there's really zero wind. Sorry about this. I don't know what this is. Oh look, there's some birdies over there. Pheasants. Oh, lovely. No, I said the wind's gone. Right, the Brahma Kumaris organisation appears to have zero income from what I can see. Well, they don't charge for anything they do. So where's the money coming from? They don't charge people to go to their workshops or anything. They have this very elaborate... They have this huge stately home with... a huge stately home. It has, you go inside, it's beautifully clean, very well equipped, obviously very well maintained. The garden, I mean, the garden must be about 3 acres. It's huge, and it's like you get in any other stately home, and it must have a team of full-time gardeners looking after it. But the question is then again, where that's not, you know, you can't do that for nothing. You can't get that for nothing. Now, it's only a very, very short distance from where I live. I live in Oxford, and this is Nunam Courtney, which is like a 10-minute bus ride from Oxford. Like I say, I've come here before, and I was quite keen on them for a while. I went through a phase in the 1990s when I was very sort of into sort of New Age stuff, you know, it's exquisite. The interior of the house is exquisitely well ordered. The wind's getting up again. There's no escape from it. It's exquisitely well ordered, really, really clean, and you know, and the staff there they're all. It's mostly women. There's a few men, and they wear these white. They all wear white, and they glide around the place like Tolkienian elves, you know. And they all look so spiritual and so monastic. And when they have these lectures and workshops in rooms with seats for the audience, and they sit in a chair at the front, and someone else comes along and adjusts their microphone, and they talk while they're sitting. It's very, very sort of like twee. And as I said, it's not. A lot of people who are experts on Hindu stuff say that it's just a reconstruction of the sort of trappings of Hinduism. I'm just trying to get out the wind. I'll put the camera over here by the tree. Surely there's not going to be no wind over here. It's all kind of like, it's very love and light. There's dolphins and there's ding-a-ling music. In fact, it's what I find about a lot of the New Age is rather treacly. It's sort of sickly sweet. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like all, you know, you see the same thing with certain websites. You know, it's all like that Fly With Me Productions website. It's all lots of dolphins, lots of doves, rainbows. Like I say, little bells ringing, and nymphs and fairies, and it's. You go in their shops. The shops don't sell any conspiratorial books at all. They sell usually almost all their own productions. They have their own imprint, and they sell their own publications, their own DVDs. There's a band called Bliss, which has sort of like angels on the cover, and it kind of fits into what Slackster was saying about pseudo spirituality or false spirituality in his video the other day. You know, he gets very annoyed by people who just have this, who are so conventionally New Age, and they go you know, they do these prayers and chants, and they meditate, and they sit in lotus position, and I think he mentioned you know, how they go through slideshows of their various trips to things. He just talked about having slideshows now. And it's all about, and he said it seems to be all about what David Icke calls. He calls it floating away on a spiritual cloud. You know, he calls it the removal of all negativity to the point where there's nothing but light and sweetness. Now, that seems to be the aim of much of the New Age seems to be about that. Now, Slackster points out very well that, you know, real spirituality can't be like that. With real spirituality, you get all the horror that comes with real life. You know, if you, for instance, are a channeler, you feel every pinprick that everyone suffers. You feel all the pain they suffer. You feel all the atrocious evil that's going on in the world. Now, the New Age seems to be about escaping that and pretending that's not there. When in fact it is there. And I can sympathise with Slackster very much. I can understand exactly how he feels. It does seem to be, I get that feeling too, and David Icke does. People being ungrounded, people being detached from the real world. It's almost like they come to this, they incarnate. You have phrases like, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. And actually, I agree with that, but I'm not having this human experience, and the aim of this human experience is not to forget and to pretend to forget that I am having a human experience and pretend I'm not having a human experience, because I am. I'll tell you a little bit about, I mean, it's in the article in the description box, my trip to the Findhorn community. Right, I just got to go through my notes here. I have notes. Right, so, I mean, I didn't have time to make sort of very good notes, so I'm just sort of like reading more or less, but I'll try to ad-lib a little bit and adapt, making allowances for the wind as well. Now, the Findhorn community is something I've heard about a long time ago. I heard about it in about 2002 because I used to actually, like I said, I went through a sort of period when I was dabbling in the New Age, and I used to read a magazine called Caduceus. It's funny because I mean I was conspiratorial at the time as well, and I was reading Nexus, but I was sort of edging over the New Age end of conspiratorialism. You know, and I read all about it in Caduceus, and also read about it in Fritz Springmeier's Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Now he takes a very, very dim view of Findhorn. He calls it the Vatican of the New Age. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, but there is something a bit sinister about it. Now, you know, it was founded in 1962 by a lady called Eileen Caddy, and she was just running a hotel at a place called Forres in the northeast of Scotland. And she started hearing voices in her head from God telling her to go and move her caravan onto a local beach. She did, and basically the community's grown up around that since then. What they do is, like, so many people want to visit now that they have this thing called Experience Week, which is what I did. You basically go up there, and they give you a week, and it's like a kind of program. You have to pay for that. That's 350 quid, but you get full. It seems expensive, but you get full board and tuition, so it's reasonable. And I did the Experience Week in 2005, where you go in there, you experience everything, including the work. I mean, they put you to work. I was put to work cleaning the place. Now, the interesting thing about what starts me off about the Findhorn community is that Eileen Caddy and her husband Peter were Rosicrucians. And that's not mentioned there. I found that out from Springmeier. It's not mentioned in the official history of Findhorn. Now, like I said, when I went there, Eileen Caddy was the only surviving founder, and she's died since then. But I mean, I suppose I did enjoy it. Although, I mean, Eileen Caddy's kind of like an avatar. I mean, her prayer books, she has prayer books and things like that, and she said she was hearing voices from God, and that's kind of how the Findhorn people see it as well. They see it that way too. I mean, there are some interesting things. For instance, she started growing vegetables on the dunes by the beach. Now, of course, sand dunes are not a very good place to grow vegetables, but she managed to grow record-breaking vegetables. Now, there is a genuine side to that. Record-breaking size and quality they won awards for vegetables, and the food there the food is absolutely orgasmic. They got a restaurant there. It was all vegetarian, so I didn't expect to put on weight when I was there, but I did. The idea is, you know, there's an idea that spiritual awareness makes you good gardeners. You know, growing and growth, and if you have spiritual awareness, you're good at growing things. And so there is an element of truth behind that, you know. And what's happened is the community has burgeoned. There's 3,000 people living there now, and the caravans have been replaced, and they've got like eco houses there now. It's called the Eco Village, and the old hotel is still used for. Is still used there as well. I mean, there's no formal kind of like credo, but they have all kinds of, you know, there's some Christians there, there's some Jews, there's some Muslims, there's people like that, and they kind of like create a kind of synthesis of all that, kind of ecumenical kind of stuff. And yeah, up to a point. I mean, they practice, you know, there is some practical, very, very progressive practical elements there. For instance, they generate their own electricity, they eat organic food, they don't pollute, you know, they practice healthy living, things like that. They have a wind turbine. I mean, now they're always attuning, which is a kind of group meditation. You stand in a circle, you hold each other's hand, and you attune to the person around you. It's a very New Age thing. I mean, there were some very nice people there. I mean, there was one of the tutors of the group was a man called Ian. He was this old guy who'd been there since the 60s, and he was very nice. There was a young Japanese woman there too, called Mie, and I had a few problems with her actually. But like I say, I mean, this is where it comes down. Now, there were some nice people in the group too. I met some people there. I'm still in touch with them actually, just a couple of them, and we kind of made friends. There was a Danish guy there called Gio, and I shared a room with him, in bedroom, and the doors are never locked. It's all very sort of like trusting, and I found that a bit strange at first, but it all made sense because it encourages you to trust other people. But Gio was a really nice guy. He called me the big bald Buddha, which is quite nice. I mean, normally people always call me fat and bald, like I say when they're insulting me, you know, fat bald cunt, you know. But he called it in a nice way, and I didn't mind that. It was completely inoffensive. Now, you see, I like that side of things. And also there was a sanctuary, which is like this cosy little room with cushions where you sit and meditate, and it's only used for spiritual practice. Everything's quiet there, you know, and it's really, really nice. And every morning at 6 a.m, everybody gets up and they go into the sanctuary and they sing. It's called the Tazy singing, where you have, where you sort of sing various chants, from hymns to shamanic chants and African native tunes, and everything except the Patagonian sheep herders' pipes that Slaxer told us about. They even have them, I think. You know, they've got a sanctuary in the park area, which is, I was at the Cluny Hotel, which is where it all started with Eileen Caddy, but there's a park area which is around the old campsite, you know, on the beach. There's what they call the Earth Sanctuary, which is like a stone building which Ian helped to build. And I was called a work angel. What happened was I was on something called home care, which in any other institution would be called cleaning and domestics. But I mean, it's quite nice because I mean, like the domestics at my hospital are treated like dirt, but we didn't have to wear a uniform or anything. We had little butterfly badges and we were called home care angels. We had a home care angels, and our headquarters were called the Home Care Haven. It wasn't just some little cupboard full of buckets and mops and hoovers. It was a massive room with settees and everything, in one of the biggest rooms in the house. And like I said, it's spotless. It was exactly like the Findhorn, like that house we just saw, the Brahma Kumaris place. It's exactly the same. It's spotless, absolutely immaculate carpets, polished doorknobs. Artwork on the wall, that kind of thing. And in the evenings there's things like theatre and music, and I did things like 4-rhythm dancing. There's a little kind of gymnasium, kind of dance studio there, so I'm getting out the wind again. Dance studio, and stuff like that. And you do these kind of spiritual dances like 4-rhythms dancing and Bia Danza it's called. And then we do these sort of role-playing games where we have to pretend to be babies being born, and we have to pretend someone else has to unwrap. You have to help someone out. You have to be the sort of spiritual midwife to another person. And we also went for a walk around the countryside. We went to a place called Randolph's Leap, which is a famous beauty spot in the mountains nearby. And I mean, people say they've seen pixies and elves and things like that there. I didn't see any of those. I didn't even see the freshwater mermaids that are supposed to be there. You know, we did have a go at tree hugging, just like you see. I'll show you what we did with this tree. Yeah? You just go like that, and you go, and you go through a kind of spiritual meditation like that. You know, that's what this is basically. This is literally what we were doing. This is tree hugging. Hello, tree. Mwah. Sorry, your bark's dirty. So in a way, I mean, they're nice. They're kind of people I can identify with in a way. They're people who watch Teletubbies even when they're 35, and they weep at the sight of a particularly lovely sunset, and you know. But you know, there's also, like I said, on one level I enjoyed it, and the food was fantastic. As I said, I turned into a fat bastard by the end of the week. I was stuffing my face on bean sprouts and pulses and it's gorgeous stuff. Now. But there is something dysfunctional about them. You know, it's something like kind of, on one level they're kind of like fluffy bunny and nice people I can sort of get along with. I'm a bit like them myself in a way, but they are New Age, and the New Age is something I think, after reading about this, I mean, I've read all the pro-New Age stuff. I've read a lot of pro-New Age stuff. You know, I mean, I quite like Ken Wilber. He's very interesting. He's a philosopher, a New Age philosopher. I like Terence McKenna. I don't know if you can call them New Age, but you know, I've read sort of the spirituality stuff. I used to have a friend who was very into spirituality. I mean, I'd say they're fairly harmless people on one level, but on another level, they're very impractical and dysfunctional. You know, they won't. I told them, I admitted, I said I'm a conspiracy theorist, and they said, oh right. They didn't even discuss it. That was it. That was the end of it. For instance, they grow organic stuff, organic food, but you try asking them getting involved in the campaign against Monsanto, they're not interested. They generate their own electricity through a wind turbine, but try talking to them about cold fusion. Try talking to them about the cover-up of the Hutchinson effect and Nikola Tesla, and they'll go, eh? Oh, you know, and they'll actually become quite uncomfortable when you raise these subjects. It's almost like they're taboo, and this goes back to what Slaxer was talking about. It's this escapism. You know, I mean, one guy there was an American couple there, and they were saying how they'd voted for John Kerry and not George Bush, and they said it was so important that we beat George Bush and we get John Kerry into power. This is in the 2004 election. What? They're both skull and bones. I mean, and this is the sort of level of naivety they're at. You know, it doesn't matter if Fiddler's Toss who won or lost that election. They're both skull and bones. They're both in the Bilderberg group. But again, you can't talk to them about that. I mean, there was something happened once. We were at the Cullen Gardens, which is their principal sort of farm. It's an organic farm where they have a donkey which provides manure, and they pick everything by hand. And we had a go at sort of like harvesting some of the food. You know, most of the food that's on the table in the restaurant comes from there. Now, Cullen Gardens is right next door to RAF Kinloss, which is a big RAF base. And we were sort of like sitting there, we were sort of doing an attunement just before going to the harvest. We were sort of sitting there, sat holding hands quietly. And this a large aircraft, a Nimrod or something, or B-1 or B-2 bomber or something, was revving up its engines, it was spooling up its jets and then making a hell of a racket in the airbase next door, probably on its way to bomb Afghanistan or something like that. And when it had sort of moved out to the runway, you know, one of the guys, this Ian, his sort of like rhapsodic smile came over his face, and he said, I love listening to the sounds of nature, the sounds of the wind in the trees, and the sound of that jet, the sound of that aircraft. That was a part of nature too. It's a bloody killing machine, Ian. You idiot. Oh, it's just, that really did. So I shouldn't call him an idiot, because he was a nice man, but it's... there's a lot of this in the New Age. They feel that they can sort of like cancel out the sort of the negativity with just too much positivity. And I think, you know, it's rather like they see it as the yin-yang thing, you know, the symbol of the Tao in Chinese mythology, the yin of the female and the yang of male. And the idea is that we have an imbalance of male energy, so they try and cancel it out with the yin, with the feminine, the female energy. Now, I mean, that's a big subject, and I mean, they've got a point there, actually, but it's a big subject, but it's kind of like, I think you can't sort of cancel these things out, and the solution doesn't come from rejecting them and denying them. And Slaxer makes that point very well. Slaxer gets very annoyed with these people. He calls them scum. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but they are irritating and they're infuriating sometimes. You know, especially when they start acting all sort of like holier than thou. You know. I mean, you see, the essence of the Tao, actually, the Lao Tzu and things like that, was that you had to balance these two opposites. A lot of Chinese philosophy is about that, which is why they embrace both Buddhism and Confucianism, because Confucianism is a practical, secular kind of philosophy to do with the real world. It's materialistic, whereas Buddhism, of course, is very mystic and immaterial. And the two sort of go together as one. This is the idea, you know. They don't reject. This is the irony. The New Age, a lot of what we call New Age is inspired by very, very ancient traditions that go back thousands of years to India, to China, to indigenous cultures and things like that. Yet the original philosophies are so different to what we call New Age now. So much of what we call New Age is simply a is simply a modern construction with the superficial appearance of those ancient rites. You know, it's now, and you know, and the original people like Lao Tzu and the Buddha would be horrified to see things like Findhorn and Brahma Kumaris. Even people like Ken Wilber, you know, have a problem with them, and you know, now there's a. I'll tell you what I mean by, you know, I'll tell you what I mean by more genuine, more sensible, more wise, more down-to-earth philosophy, which is what we need. Spirituality is not something. It's not something airheaded. It's not something you know, etheric. It's real spirituality. Is something very, 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 very solid and very real, and something very, very down to earth. Something very, very tangible. I'll give you an example. God, what's it? 35 minutes. I think this is one of the longest movies I've ever made. So I'm going to carry on in a single take. I'll give you an example. I'm a big fan of the TV series Red Dwarf, and Slaxer likes it too, and we've discussed it. Red Dwarf is very funny, but it's also very, very clever. Rob Grant, Doug Naylor, they obviously know an awful lot about philosophy, and there's lots of sort of like mention of philosophy in the work. But they're also there's one particular episode, I think it's in series 5 or series 6, I can't remember. It's called Demons and Angels, anyway. What happens is the Red Dwarf, if you're familiar with the series, it's about the group of guys who are on this spacecraft in deep space, science fiction. And what happens is it's split off into its sort of Taoist opposites. So 2 copies are made through some process. I won't go into. You've got to watch it. Through some process, 2 copies of the Red Dwarf spacecraft are made. With the people inside it are made too. And the 2 copies are extremes. They are extremes of this Taoist balance. So in one ship, it's the extremity of yang with none of the yin put in it. With no yin at all. On the other ship, it's the extremity of yin with no yang at all, and they call them highs and lows. And what happens? They visit the low in the low ship. They're basically they're a bunch of pirates. They're a bunch of violent, brutal thugs who torture the characters, and they do all sorts of horrible things. But they say something very interesting. They say to one of the characters, "But I'm just a part of you. I'm the part of you that likes." Who likes to watch horror movies and is, you know, nasty and do nasty things like that. I'm just a part of you. I'm not bad, really. I'm you, you know. And in the yin, on the high ship, which is the one which is completely yin, they're the exact opposite. They are these sort of like robe-wearing monks who live on this divine, you know, celestial monastery. And on the one hand, you think, oh, what lovely people. They don't do any harm. Yeah, they don't do any harm, but they don't do anything else either. They don't do anything. It's the thing. There's one point where they're just walking through the ship, and one of the lows stabs the high guy. He stabs the high lister, and the lister turns and he says, "Forgive me, my friend. My blood has stained the blade of your knife." I mean, this is basically what the Brahma Kumaris people are like. They're like the highs and Red Dwarf up to a point. Perhaps not quite that bad, but they're still very much like that. You know, I mean, it's this. I think Slaxer and I both understand this. Now, in the experience week at Findhorn, we had a lecture. Sorry, a meeting, a sharing. It's not called a lecture. It's called a sharing, where we sit in a circle, and the Findhorn community founder, the director called Mary Hollander, gave us a lecture, and I asked her. I said, "Well, look, are you interested in doing any practical stuff, you know, in terms of campaigning and addressing these issues in the world at large?" And she said, "That's not really what we're for. The Findhorn community is set up to nourish the vital spark of spirituality in everyone." And I just thought, that's again, I got misgivings about that, because that, you know, it's like it's almost like a kind of escapism. They are actually quite practical up to a point in terms of generating their own electricity and growing their own food and stuff like that, but it's only within their own community. They're not interested in sort of like proselytizing. They don't want to get out there and try to change the world. They want to escape from the world. And, you know, it's known as a haven. The TV series I first saw about Findhorn years ago, which persuaded me to go on the Experience Week, was called The Haven. Now, you know, another thing that's interesting about the Findhorn community is it's, you know, which again lies under the surface of this sweetness and light, is that it's not, you know, in terms of its actual political and sort of like management system, it's a fairly conventional business. Mary Hollander is the director, and the whole place is run by a board of trustees, just like any other company. It's run by a foundation. It's called the Findhorn Foundation that manages the community, and it's run by a board of trustees. And one of them is an aristocrat called Lady Diana Whitmore, and several people with OBEs. In fact, Eileen Caddy was awarded the OBE. Well, I mean, the Lord Lieutenant of Scotland gave it to her because the Queen she didn't actually go to visit the Queen, but the Lord Lieutenant of Scotland came and knighted her. So she's knighted by that reptile. She's been decorated by the reptile in London. You know, and there's no, you see, I asked, I says, I mean, I went in there assuming it'd be some kind of workers' cooperative, but it's not. The people who live there are employees. They don't own any share in the business. They just work there. It's not a workers' cooperative. I've written a lot about workers' cooperatives. And there's links, in the article on Findhorn, there's links to my page on the workers' cooperative. You know, I mean, New Age, right. The New Age movement, if you go back to the 1950s, in the post-war period, in the early 60s, when the sort of, which is when the New Age sort of like ideas emerged. People started to lose distrust after World War II. People started to lose trust with traditional religious structures. And governments were very concerned about this. They brought in people like the Rand Corporation, the Tavistock Institute, the Brookings Institute, to do sort of like surveys and things like that. And they actually said that the New Age was unstoppable. The New Age was something you could not suppress. It would one day eventually surpass traditional religious beliefs. The only solution was for governments to get inside them and transform them, basically to do what they've done with what they did with the Occupy movement, to create false friends, controlled opposition. And this is what they did. The new, you know, all these emerging new Age organisations. I mean, you see with the counterculture. It's sad when you look at the counterculture in the 1960s, the hippie movement. And some of the music, I mean, some of the songs by Bob Dylan, and you know, they become some of the most wind again. Sorry, that's better. Not that kind of wind, real wind. No, they become some of the most famous songs ever written, and they inspired generations of people. But the counterculture of the 1960s was infiltrated and subverted by the governments, by intelligence agencies. Now, there's an organisation been set up by some very, very slippery and dodgy individuals like George Thurman, who was a Buddhist, Alice Bailey. There's another lady who... These people... I mean, you watch Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper's written a lot about these people. It's worth reading his book. They talk openly about population reduction. They say unenlightened people should be killed and things like that. It doesn't matter because they're only going back to the ether and they'll be reincarnated and stuff like that. Oh, big deal. You don't mind, do you, if I kill you? No. George Thurman, he's the father of the actress Uma Thurman, and was a big name in the Lucis Trust, the New Age, sort of like, which is kind of like an umbrella group for New Age organisations set up in the 1950s and 60s. But the Lucis Trust was a wholly owned subsidiary of the United Nations, and there's a meditation room in the United Nations building set up by the Lucis Trust. Andrej Puharic. Now he's particularly interesting because he brought to the living rooms of millions of people all over the world a guy who, I'm afraid to say, I've not seen him do anything any half-decent stage conjurer could do. If any, I know a lot of you disagree with that. Please give me examples, and I'll discuss it with you. But I'm not seeing him do anything particularly magical. Uri Geller. Andrej Puharic was the guy behind Uri Geller. Now he's an interesting background because he was a US Army officer at Fort Detrick and Fort Meade. Well, Fort Detrick was the US government's biowarfare program, and Fort Meade was is the headquarters of the National Security Agency, intelligence operations. Brahma Kumaris, you see, I mean, this is so. It's no coincidence when I went even in the 1990s, because I was getting conspiratorial aware. You know, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up when they started talking about the United Nations, about how the Brahma Kumaris is involved with the United Nations. And they've got a big plaque on their wall from the Secretary General of the United Nations, and they've had awards from the UN as well. This is very, very wide. And Findhorn are involved with the UN, just as much. And what's more, I mean, as you often get with these sort of institutions, there's an awful lot of kind of sorry, I've lost my train of thought. You know, there's this dark side. Very often, even the love and lighters, you know, it's even within their own personalities and their own people, it's a front for something darker. Because you know, even people who act all love and light on the surface can be very unpleasant. I've known so many very, very, very unpleasant people, very emotionally and psychologically manipulative people who are they're nothing special. They're no senior. They're not agents. They're not directors of the Brahma Kumaris. They're just people who go along there like me. But they're very, very unpleasant people. And they can be they can be extremely negative. Well, they're trying to cover up the fact that negativity even exists, or negativity is some kind of pathology that we have to suppress. They themselves behave very negatively indeed. I'll tell you what more, right? I was at this BK event, right, I was telling you about. I went to one of their all-day retreats. It cost me about £5. I was in the canteen, and one of these white-clad angels was sitting on the table nearby. The same one that had been, one of the same ones that had been sort of like gliding around the carpeted hallway, showing us to our seats and giving us namastes and in Lakeshes and all the stuff that Slaxer and I both hate. And the ones that were adjusting the microphone for the speakers while they sat there in their armchairs talking to us. All right. Well, I was listening in on their conversations as you do when I was eating my bowl of pulses and grapes. All right. What were they talking about? Spiritual enlightenment, spiritual awareness, philosophy? No. They were talking about their stocks and shares, and about the mortgages and things like that, and interest rates, and all the conformist stuff that they were, you know, sort of like left brain people do. And so I thought to myself, just exactly how deep does their spirituality run? Obviously not deep enough so that it stops them, you know, having a very much conformist life. I'll tell you something about the BKs. Like, they have a habit of suing people. Right? If you criticise them, they sue you. Well, they try to sue you. They haven't actually won a lawsuit yet, but they do take you to court. So I'm expecting I'll expect a letter from their solicitor as soon as this video is uploaded. No, it's strange. Like I say, the spirituality is superficial. It's false. It's sort of overlay. It's just like a shop window. It's a facade. If you know what I mean. It's not real. It's not deep. It's not in their soul and their hearts as it should be. Now, the last day of my experience week at Findhorn was very, very disturbing and stressful, I tell you. We were going through the sort of last sharing, in which we were describing our overall impressions, and I was stopped, and Mie suddenly interrupted me. Ben, she says, could you say I? And this is the thing. I said something like, you know, or it's good for you, or something like that, using the word you in idiomatic sense. Now, we've made, you know, there's a rule at Findhorn. You only ever, when you're talking about yourself, you only ever talk about yourself. You don't talk about anyone except yourself, and you always use the pronoun I. You never, and the thing about it is, well, all I did was I just said, you know, that's what I said, you know, or something like that. I didn't, it's called making I statements. You only ever refer to things as they relate to you. And I just said, well, this is good for you, or something like that. And, of course, anyone, I mean, maybe I could excuse her because she was Japanese, and she did speak good English, though. She should realise that it's good for you as an idiom. It's something it has a meaning beyond its literal grammatical meaning. This is what idioms are. And English is full of them. Maybe Japanese isn't, I don't know, I can't speak Japanese. But she says, could you say I, please? And I said, I was a bit annoyed as she interrupted me like that, and I said, well, it's only an expression. She said, nevertheless, I would like to hear you say I. And I wish then I'd stood up to her, but I didn't. And I remember thinking, even at the time, this is Orwellian. This is like Newspeak. And I remember thinking, you know, even then I thought, there's something wrong here. So a bit of wind again. Get over by the tree. I thought, there's something wrong here. I know something else as well. One of the members of our group was a Portuguese lady. I'll call her Carla. It's not her real name. Now she's probably the person of all the 12 people. There's 12 people in every experience week, right? What's the time? 48 minutes, blimey. Now Carla was probably the person I was closest to. She's the person I made the most friends with. She's a lovely lady, and I suppose we had some great conversations. We were talking about a lot of things, and I suppose there was a kind of mutual attraction there. You know, we were quite keen on each other. Now, she comes from Portugal, but she lived at the time she was living in Brussels, Belgium, and her house is on the site of an energy vortex, which is where two ley lines converge. Yes, I do take these things seriously. These things are real. Carla had deliberately bought that house for that very purpose. Now, she started talking about this. Then suddenly she burst into tears, and she started switching between Portuguese and French, and she speaks several languages, and just really ranting like that, and tears streaming down her face. And I mean, I managed to get the impression of what was going on, that basically she's been targeted by black occultists who are trying to stop her earth healing work in this house. They've basically broken into her house, and they leave something around which she calls evil masks. I don't know what that means. Maybe masks like an Eyes Wide Shut, you know, and they put them down in the house. Anyway, it scares the shit out of this poor girl, and she's under psychic attack, and she's under physical attack by these people. And I mean, at one point she used the French word maçon. Now, I can't speak good French nowadays. I learned it at school, but I know maçon means mason, as in Freemason. And she started relating more information about this as best she could, and we couldn't pick it all up. Sorry, wind again. We couldn't pick it all up, but I got the gist of it, which was that she was under attack by these basically Illuminati agents who are trying to. She's pouring positive energy into the Earth grid through this energy vortex, these ley lines, and they're trying to stop her. They're trying to put in bad energy, which is why they do sacrifices and things like that, and satanic rituals. Yes, these things are real. No, that's not New Age. That is real. In fact, this is the thing the New Age will not touch. They will not go there. They're not interested in satanic ritual. They're not interested in anything conspiratorial, including UFOs, except the sort of like, some of them are into the UFO religions, like the Raelians and the Aetherius Society and these other dimwits. But anyway, poor Carla, she broke down. She was weeping her head off, and and the people she was trying to explain. I'm the only person who really understood what she was saying to any degree, and I didn't understand everything because she was just so distraught. But the others were just completely nonplussed. It never occurred to them that such things as evil occultists exist. I mean, when I got home, I emailed her, and she never, you know, I didn't talk about what she'd spoken about because you never know who's reading them. But I sort of like cryptically asked her if she's okay, and she never replied. I've never heard from her since. I just hope she's all right. I really do. So what I'm saying is, like, what I'm saying is basically the New Age is, in summary, the New Age is not, because this video is nearly an hour long. I'm not gonna. I don't normally do long videos like this, do I? Just get the wind out of the way. I mean, the New Age is not. Firstly, the New Age is not natural spirituality. Most New Age beliefs and ideas are a modern construction. They don't date back more than about 60, 70 years. Even the oldest versions, you go back to the Blavatsky and things like that, are less than 2 centuries old. And I think actually Blavatsky, people like Blavatsky, Crowley, I think they're not as bad as some people make out, actually. Aleister Crowley's a controversial character, I know, but I mean, they're not as bad as people make out. So New Ages are not genuine ancient spirituality, right? New Ages are not alternatives to mainstream religion. New Age is another form of mainstream religion. The same people who control mainstream religion also control the New Age. The religions like the Vatican and the Archbishop of Canterbury, they're of course all controlled by the Illuminati. Well, the Illuminati control the Lucis Trust just as much as they do the Vatican. Right? So they're not alternatives to mainstream religion at all. If you get involved in the New Age too deeply, and you have a New Age belief, then I'm afraid, you know, you're likely to be as controlled as any Catholic or radical Islamist. New Age beliefs are very, very hierarchical. Even in the early days of his work, David Icke said this. He actually pointed out that they were just becoming like the normal religions, these various avatars in India and people like that. There's corruption in the New Age. I've already explained to you how New Age is, New Age beliefs are often, New Age individuals often act very negatively, secretly behind the scenes. Well, so do New Age organisations. The Times of India, in one of India's best-selling newspapers, recently did an investigation into Brahma Kumaris, where people were accusing of child abuse, murder, and collaboration with organised crime, gangsters. They're involved in it. This is the same Brahma Kumaris who are in that house over there, with all the nice gardens and the pretty flowers and people walking around like Arwen and Lord Elrond in their white dresses, right? The same organisation. So there's corruption in the New Age, just as much as there is in mainstream religion. And based on what Slaxer says, Slaxer's describing... Slaxer, I think, one thing he's made clear in his videos, is that Slaxer is a person who embraces spirituality, but he embraces genuine spirituality. And the New Age is not the path to genuine spirituality. You see, it's true, we are beings of love and light, and we are. But we're also beings of fire, and we're beings of ice, and we burn and we freeze. And I think that's what I like about paganism. At least the more at least the non-organised type, the more genuine type, because paganism understands this. The indigenous shamanic cultures understand this. And I'm talking especially about Norse, the Norse paganism or the continental Germanic paganism. I mean, it's got a bad name, that, because, of course, Hitler believed in it, Odin and Wotan and people like that. And, the Nazis were very neo-pagan in that sense. But I think we should take it back from them. Why, such brilliant, such wonderful ideas are wasted on the Nazis. Just because they believe in it doesn't mean it makes them bad. It doesn't. It means the Nazis perverted them. And this is why, when... So bloody wind, when a pagan dies, when a Norse pagan or an Anglo-Saxon dies, they were always burnt. Because, at least before they were converted to Christianity, because they understood that we are beings of fire, as well as love and light. And that fire is both destructive and creative. And they had the wisdom to realise that, so they burnt the body, they cremated the body, they put it in the fire, because they knew that the fire had this creative element to it, it's symbolic. True spirituality, as Slaxer said, is not about denying our dark side. It's not about denying our natural aggressive elements the natural aggressive elements of our minds and our souls, or our natural forceful elements. We are masculine as well as feminine, and to cut off that masculine side of us, whether we're a man or a woman physically, is to make us half-baked. We become half-baked spiritually half-baked. So our dark side, our darkness, our aggression, has to be integrated, it has to be processed, it has to be understood, it has to be dealt with, not denied and not rejected. And I think unless we integrate our aggression and our violent aspects spiritually, we can never find peace, and we can never have a peaceful world. And I think unless we integrate and understand and process our darkness, then we were never ever going to be real beings of love and light. Well, thank you for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order.